Well, good evening and welcome to the podcast. I'm really glad you're here. This is a very special episode we're doing tonight. We're going to be honoring the late, great Eastern racer, Roger Poulin. We've got family and friends of his here, and we're going to have a really good time just remembering him, telling stories, looking at images and video clips. So, in the upper right hand corner, we've got his sister, Pauline Poulin. Unfortunately, we don't have audio for her, so she's just going to be making comments in the comment section, which is really unfortunate. But I'm glad she's here to participate in whatever way we could get her here. And of course, we've got former racing companion and friend Rick Simula is here, who knew Roger very well. Used to race with him back in the day. And of
Yeah.
course, our good friend Midge Rosebrook, who's been on here many times. He's the founder of the Eastern Snowmobile Racing Hall of Fame. And since you knew him better than I did, I'm going to get out of your way and let you guys just have a conversation about Roger. And I'll put images on the screen as we need to. And we've got those video clips too.
Well, let's start with his Polaris days. Or he ran a Skidoo, but I don't know much about that. That was 68, 69 probably. He ran a Skidoo for a while, and then he got hooked into Cat in Polaris in 71. And these are some images of his 71 Polarises and 72s. This image here is of 73 Formula 2, number 78. He had USSA bib 78. Let's talk about his Polaris days, Midge. You know the team captain better than I do.
Yeah. The captain of Polaris D's team was Bob Clark.
Yeah.
Bob started out as a mechanic. He was a Mac mechanic here in Lancaster, and salesman from Harrington King and Randolph, Mass. Approached him and asked him if he'd be a salesman for Harrington King. Bob says, "Boy, I don't know anything about being a salesman. I'm a mechanic." He never looked back. He took the plunge and became one of their top salesmen. And around that time, they needed a team manager for their new Polaris East team. And I think that was in 1970, I think was the first year they started racing. And in 71, Bob hired on a young hotshot named Roger Poulin. And Bob said he was a heck of a racer. And he said he only knew one speed, and that was wide open.
Wide open.
And yeah, he said halfway through the season, he said, I had to pull him aside. He said, Midge, he said he was literally running over people to get up front. And he says, Roger, I got him aside. He says, I told him, he says, Roger, he says, you've got to, I'm not going to say slow down. But he says, dude, he says, you can't keep running over these other sleds. And he said, it doesn't look good for the team. So after that, I think Roger kind of calmed down a little bit, and he finished the rest of the season. He did very well. And when we started this Hall of Fame, I got a call from Bob one day, and Bob mentioned Roger Poulin as a viable candidate for being in the Hall of Fame. So I don't know if Bob had called Roger or how it worked out, but one day the phone rang and it was Roger. And so I was talking to him, and I said, Roger, I said, Bob Clark told me that you should be in the Hall of Fame. And I says, I'm not going to argue with Bob Clark. If he thinks you should be in the Hall of Fame, then you should be in the Hall of Fame. I said, there's no more knowledgeable person in the East racing, as far as I'm concerned, than Bob Clark. He raced in the original Grand Prix race here in town. So I told Roger to get himself a resume and do it up and mail it to me, and I would present it to the board. And the board voted unanimously for Roger Poulin to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. So it was in the first, I think it was the first outdoor ceremony, wasn't it, Rick? 2020?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, and you were here. Weren't you here? Or maybe you weren't. But anyway, 2020.
2020.
Yeah. And I think, Mike, you have that.
Oh, yes. Yeah. When you're ready, I have his induction and an interview with him.
Yeah.
So whenever you're ready, I'm happy to play that.
Well, we could run that maybe a little later, but
sure.
That's basically the Polaris end of the deal, and how he was inducted into the Hall of Fame through Bob Clark. But maybe Rick's got some stories about his cat years.
Well, let me just say that the Hall of Fame, he called me and he said, I want to write a resume, Rick, for the Hall of Fame. And I said, okay, we'll give it our best shot. And I said, bring everything you have with you. Come on over the house. So I had newspaper clippings and everything you can think of. And, he was highlighted in a lot of newspapers. So we put it all together. And basically, we contacted Midge, and we sent in what he had, and it worked. It worked. He got inducted, and it was a great thing. It really was. I was happy for him.
I think he was the first Vermonter.
Pardon me?
I think he was the first Vermonter to be inducted into the Hall of Fame.
Vermonter. Yeah, it was the first Vermonter.
First person from Vermont.
Yeah.
Nice.
I mean, there were others that he wished he could have got in, like Donnie Shepard from Vermont, but Donnie passed away too soon, and could never be recognized, at that point. So, but Roger was happy; he was very happy. So, and we had to work at it. Writing a resume through memory is not easy, know, and you want to be as factual as you can. So that's what we did. That's what we did. When he rolled into 73, he was working at Rodco. Basically, he hung around there enough so they hired him, and in the race shop. But 74 was when he got his dream of that 650.
Yeah.
He won or placed in everything he entered the entire year. And it's tough to do. You're racing against J.R. Tozier. You're racing against out in Eagle River. You had Villeneuve and Bob Elsner in his heat.
There were 5,000 active drivers.
Yeah.
In USSA at that time.
At that time. Yeah. 73, 74, 75 too.
650 was a meaty class too. 440, 650. There was a lot of sleds.
Yeah, there was more in the 440, but there was quite a few in the 650. And the thing is, to handle those 650s takes a different type of person.
Oh boy, yeah.
It takes a Bob Eastman. It takes it
takes big guys like Conrad Rollins and of course Bruce Dunham wasn't very big, but that Bruce was a logger and he was a bear. He was built like a grizzly bear. But for the most part, you had to be a pretty good sized guy to handle one of those things.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there's some photos out there with Conrad Rollins manhandling that 650, Yeah. Look at this photo here. This is in Canaan, 1974. And Roger leading the pack. And I think J.R. Tozier's back there on an Alouette. And Roger won this race. And, he's coming into a corner pretty hard. So
Roger's got a pretty good line going there.
Yeah, but you can see the intents. He's looking ahead to the next corner.
He's ready to cut the skis right off the front of those other guys.
Yeah. Oh, he's moving. He
is.
Yeah. So that was 74 was a good year for him. 73.
How tall was Roger? 6'2", maybe.
6'2", 6'3".
Yeah. Well, when you lean a frame the size of Roger Poulin on the left-hand side of that sled, you got a pretty good counterbalance there.
Yeah, he's got 230 pounds on the right-hand side of that sled.
You get a little guy like me on something like that, and I'd hide side that thing, and I'd be off into the boonies.
Well, you got to get it. It's easy down the straightaway, but you got to get it around the corner.
You got to get it around the corner.
And if you're doing 100, it's pretty tough to do.
Oh yeah.
Doesn't matter what sled you're on. You know what I mean?
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's just like a sailboat. You get all that weight on the opposite side of where you're turning.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, look at like right there too.
That's out in Eagle River. That
Yeah.
picture there. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
Eagle River.
That's on his patch too.
What's that?
That's the photo that he used
That's
on
on
that
the patch
patch.
too.
Oh wow, yes, I remember that.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's what he wanted. Yeah, he
Yeah.
wanted that on the patch. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know if people knew about that, but Roger had a patch made up and for the Hall of Fame to make money on, and we still have a few. I don't know if have you got a patch handy? I can go get one.
I don't. I've got one, but I'm not sure where it is.
I'm going to disappear, guys, and
Grab
I'll be
one if
right
you
back.
would. Yeah, that'd be
I'm
great.
going to go get a patch.
And Pauline is saying she'd like a patch. She's leaving comments for us.
Yeah, I've got something I'm going to send her. I wanted to wait till after the celebration of life. I've got a couple things I'm going to send her. So,
oh, wonderful.
I'll get that taken care of.
Great.
Yeah, this is in Eagle River. We all went out there. I went out there. Paul Lamontagne was there. J.R. Tozier went out. The 650 class was probably the most heavily. It had a lot of superstars in it. Bob Elsner was running number 2 that year in the Central Division on a 73 EXT. You had, I believe Ronnie Hall was in this race too on a 650. Jacques Villeneuve was in this race. Either that Jacques or Giles. I'm not sure which one.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of competitors in that race out in Eagle River. He led for 4 laps, I believe, and then he blew his clutch. Well, the clutch locked up, the drive clutch. But it happened right in front of us.
Wow.
But
I've got this patch. I don't know if you guys can see that right there.
There we go.
Now that's the photo that Rick just popped up.
Yeah.
That's the same photo that he had superimposed on this patch. And in the middle, to Roger's right, is Conrad Rollins on a Polaris.
Yeah.
And on the outside, running a Bombardier Blizzard, is Calvin Reynolds. And if you look, you can even see Calvin's scarf. The detail.
Oh yeah, the blue scarf.
Yeah, the detail on this patch is phenomenal.
Yeah,
I mean, you can see the throttle cable on Roger's cat.
Yeah,
it's phenomenal, the detail. And Roger said the 2 best guys that he ever raced with was Conrad Rollins and Calvin Reynolds, the people that he looked up to the most, and he wanted them on the patch.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well,
and so then he had these made up. I think he had like a couple hundred of them made up.
Yeah.
And we have a few left. We sell them every year at the inductions, and people want a patch. But yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Roger said he wanted to build a patch, and I said, "Well, come on over and bring your stuff over." So we clipped up little snowmobiles out of the photos we had done, and kind of placed them all over the place until we finally come up with a format that he liked. And he goes, "That's it." And then he took the ball from there.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And
he was pretty happy to do that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that really.
Just a footnote I wanted to mention.
Like he was doing something for the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just a footnote I wanted to mention is Cal Poulin is named after Calvin Reynolds.
Is that right?
Cal Poulin is named after Cal Reynolds.
Wow. There you go.
That was his favorite buddy or driver. I guess, we all look up to someone, and he looked up to Calvin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is cool. Now we do have some comments that are coming in back on, the side, the people manhandling the sleds and the muscle that's required. Jeffrey Patton is saying that Brad Hewlings wasn't very big, but he could race any size sled.
Right.
And then Reggie Dufresne says, do any of us recall Jim Rule? Is Jim someone that might have raced with Roger, or does anyone remember that name at all?
No, I don't.
Wow.
Okay. We went out to Eagle River. He think he was in the Gary Webster crew. Gary Webster, all those fellas.
Sure.
We all stayed at different places out there in Eagle River. And So I don't know who his crew was. Fellow Harold Tenney, a guy named Big Daddy, Harold Tenney, Alex, which was Gary Webster's mechanic. They were on that crew. I was with the George Gordon crew, and that's how we went out there. Different crews, all doing our thing. We were stockers. He was a modified driver. So, but
Nice.
interesting story about Roger. If I can make it quick.
Yes, please do.
We're at a place called The Mod after Saturday's race, and it's a bar called The Mod. So we go in there, and Roger's shooting pool, and he's running the table wicked. I mean, it was like 3 or 4 guys. He beat all them. So Gary and I put quarters up on the side of the table, and a couple of local guys came over and swiped the quarters right off the table and took them. Roger went over to those guys. There was 3 of them. And here's Roger. He says, those quarters belong to those guys. They're next. Those guys put those quarters back on the table. We're just sitting there. We're only, we don't want any trouble. But, he took the ball and he ran. He says, those quarters belong to those guys. And the guys came over and put them back on the table.
Nice. That's cool.
Yeah, that was. It was a great night for us,
Yes.
Yeah. But this photo here is from 76 when he had this hot rod Yamaha. I don't know if we all can see it, but some Canadians built it and put Roger on it. And
Roger loved that Yamaha.
The thing was a rocket.
It was a rocket.
Yeah, he won Massachusetts Governor's Cup with it.
Oh, he got number 7 bib.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Number 7 bib, and he won everything. He ran the 440, he won that. He took second or third in the 650 with it, and it's a 340. He won the 340.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. You work all week on these sleds, and you don't know how you're going to do. But he went out there, and there wasn't many that could keep up with him.
Wow.
No.
Now, Pauline is making a comment that number 7 was 7 out of over 5,000 racers.
Yeah. Think about it.
In the Eastern Division.
Yeah. The Eastern Division. Yeah.
And, most of those guys ran multiple classes, and that's how they were able to grab more points.
Yeah.
You know how difficult it would be to race just one sled and make number 7 bib?
Yeah, you couldn't do.
You had to do a lot of winning. You had to do a lot of winning to do that.
The trophies behind me, I've got a whole list of trophies behind me. In every race, he took home a minimum of 3 trophies for every race.
Every race.
I don't know if you can see the cups over here.
Yeah.
3 or 4 of them from the same race.
Yeah.
3rd, 2nd, 1st. The same with these behind. He's got these diamond trophies from the same race. He's got 4 of them.
Yeah.
And he ran 290, 340, 440, and 650. And that takes a lot of energy, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But.
Oh, yeah. It's amazing how you could accomplish, to break the top 10 on one sled, because, like Bob Fortin and the Timberland Machines crew, they were racing 3 different classes.
Right.
And you got points in each class.
And you know what the big stickler was for Roger during this time period? He was fighting cancer.
Yes, that's right.
He had a 27-inch incision under his right or left arm. I believe it was his right arm. And in 1970, this was 76. In 75, he was going through it, through chemo. And he was racing under that conditions, in this picture. So incredible endurance.
Just think of it.
Yeah, I mean, incredible endurance. Yeah. Most of us, I just say to heck with it and sit home.
Yeah.
He wanted to compete. Oh, there's a nice picture of his helmet.
Yeah.
The Poulin family was nice enough to let me borrow it.
Yeah.
And it's going to go in the Hall of Fame if they'll take it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
It's a crazy piece. This used to be Roger's purple metal flake helmet from 73.
Yeah.
And if you know Roger, he was a lone wolf. That's what the helmet represents.
That's why he wanted it.
And you look at that photo behind me, and you can see this coming out of the corner. And this helmet was legendary in the East. It was.
It was.
So I'm honored to be able to hold it.
Yeah.
But, I look forward to it going in the Hall of Fame. I haven't called Paul yet, but hopefully, Midge, you might clear the way for it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We're working on it.
Yeah. I mean, it deserves to be there. I want to do it for Roger.
Yeah. No, that's the place to have it.
Yeah. I just want to do it for him. And,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, we'll find a place for it.
Yeah. I was honored when Christine Langer and Cal Poulin gave my wife the helmet to take home last weekend.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Honored to have it.
Impressive. Yeah.
I wish my cousin Gary was here to see this. I really do.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, he was kind of idle. We wanted to run 650s, but we would never. Didn't have the money. And it was cool to watch Roger run. And is that my cousin Gary's mother was Roger's biggest fan in the whole world. And she was the nicest lady you ever want to meet. Yeah. She had 3 men in her life: her husband Richard, Evel Knievel, and Roger Poulin. That's the truth. So it's the truth. Yeah. She was a wonderful woman.
Wow.
Yeah. We'd be standing at the racetrack and we see Roger pulling in, and I'd say, "Aunt Betty, Roger just pulled in," and I would look at her and she'd be grinning from ear to ear. I know. Yeah.
Nice. Now we've got comments coming in from Pauline. Now the note about Pauline is you can see her on the screen, but unfortunately we don't have audio on her tonight. We tried and we couldn't get it. But she's making comments in the background, and she said a couple of things, that Roger was left-handed, but also that helmet was painted by Ron Hernandez of Burlington, Vermont.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'll put that helmet back on the screen here.
Yeah.
So that was painted by Ron Hernandez.
You know what's funny is Roger told me, he says, I wanted to put a little blood on the teeth. And I said, yeah, okay, Roger. Well, I never looked at the helmet until I got it. By God, there's red on the teeth.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
There's red paint on the teeth.
Wow. Hold that up again if you would.
Let me see if I can show you.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
On the gum line there. Yes.
Yeah.
Right on the front edge of the teeth.
Right on the edge.
Right on there. Yeah.
You gotta be kidding me.
That's amazing.
He was crazy. I'll tell you though, Roger came up to me in '75 when I was in Lancaster at the Grand Prix, and he said, "Can I run your sled?" Well, the sled was going good in Mod 1. I won Mod 1 the weekend before down in Troy, but I didn't have enough money to run the classes in Lancaster. So he wanted the money. He wanted to build up points in Mod 1. So I said, sure. It was a 245 RV Skidoo. So I said, sure, go ahead and run it. But I said, you're a lot heavier than me, and I don't know how it's going to work out. So he went out there, and I think he took a third. He wasn't happy. And he pulled the sled in, and he said, you need to work on this sled. It doesn't go. And it was because I had a cracked stator plate, rotary plate.
Oh.
And I blew it up the following weekend in Redfield. But I didn't know that. I was losing power all the time. But we became pretty good friends. I hadn't seen him, I would say since 1975 until we met at the induction. We met in the induction in 2019. And he hugged me like he had my long-lost brother.
Wow.
My glasses went flying. Well, it's like hugging a bear,
Yeah.
So,
I got a call a couple of years ago, a couple summers ago. Answered the phone. Midge. Hey, Roger. Yeah. I'm down here to Scorpios. Get your butt down here, he says. I'm going to have a visit. So I'm down here with my bike. So I went down, and he said, sit your butt down, he says, and order something. I says, no. I said, he said, yep, it's on me.
Yeah.
So I don't know what I ordered, but hamburger or something.
Yeah.
So there was a friend of his with him, and they were biking through. And he out of the blue just called me up and says, come on down, we'll have a visit.
Yeah.
So I sat there.
Where was that? Midge?
That where or when?
Where was it?
Scorpios.
Oh,
In
Scorpio.
Lancaster.
It's right
Yeah.
on Main Street. It's right. It's just up the street from the museum.
Yeah.
It was within walking distance.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Last induction, they were trying to get me to go there, and I said, no, we're going to stay put for now.
It's a good little pizza place.
It is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have everything. It's a pub, like
Sure.
We sat outside. He had an
You know,
outside table.
I can't say enough about the Lancaster Motel. We
Yeah.
had such a good time at the induction.
Oh yeah,
Oh, it was
Yeah.
incredible.
yeah,
I mean, we got back. Yeah.
yeah.
Got to
We
give
got
them a
back to the
plug.
motel, and it didn't open up until 4. Well, this is 3:00.
Yeah.
So everybody's going, what are we going to do? So we started putting chairs in front of our rooms, and Kathy Nedrow was there, and Randy LaValle, and we had a great time. And
Yeah.
then finally, when the bar opened up, we really didn't rush over there. We were still having a good time there,
Yeah.
But it was
I don't
a
know if
great-
Pauline knew this, but those guys, when they stayed at those motels, a lot of times, those engines had to be torn down. And by gosh, that warm hotel room was a
no better
perfect
place.
place to
Yeah,
take the engine off and bring the engine right in the room and start rebuilding it right on the floor.
yeah. I've seen it before. I've seen it out in New York. We bring the whole sled in the room.
Bring the whole sled in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's a warm place to work on it.
Yeah.
Pauline has a good story about Roger. They're at the Lancaster Motel in the lounge, and it had to be 74 or 5. And Pauline had brought over a nice Ford Galaxy 500. She was senior in high school and just bought it for $400, I think. So she wanted to see Roger race in Lancaster, so she drove over. So while they're sitting in the bar, the chief of police is there, and he's buying drinks, and they're all having a good time. And Roger says to Pauline, I'd really like to try that car out you have, the 500. Can I try it out? And Pauline said, sure. She says, I want to take it for a ride. And Pauline said, well, as long as I can go with you. Okay, so down the road they head, and Pauline says, Roger, so where are we going? He said, we're going to the track. Are you kidding me? He says, no, we're going to the track. And they just got done racing on it that day. So they wheel into the track, and Pauline says, I didn't have the best of tires on it. But it went okay. So, Roger, get some speed.
Well, he
up
raced
there,
stock cars, so
lap after lap, they're hauling. And pretty soon it's getting a little out of control. They spin them, go up on the bank, and they're stuck. So Pauline figures, oh boy, are we in trouble now? Not the way it went. Everybody from the Lancaster Lounge heard about the event and came to see, so they were all there, including the chief of police.
Oh, gee.
Pulled everybody out, and Pauline's waiting for them to all get into trouble. And nope, let's go back to the Lancaster Motel. So that's where they all headed.
The chief of police, too.
What's that?
I say, and the chief of police also.
And the chief of police, he was buying.
Yeah.
Now,
It was Whitey Leonard.
What was it?
Whitey Leonard was the chief of police back then.
Yeah.
And an avid snowmobiler. And he was a 3 years there. He was actually the chairman of the Grand Prix.
Yeah.
And he was a past president of the Snowdrifters. Huge snowmobiler. So he knew the situation.
Yeah. I thought that was pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah. During Grand Prix, during that week, you could get away with just about anything.
Nice.
Yeah. The rules were a lot more lax then too.
They were a lot friendlier towards snowmobiles back then.
Yes.
Right.
And cars on the racetrack.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I've got some comments from Pauline coming in. She's in the upper right-hand corner. And if you're just joining us, we don't have audio on Pauline. We just have video on her, so she's making comments. She's talking about when he raced for Ski-Doo, he raced with Tom Mowat. Roger many times would bring his motors in mom and dad's kitchen and rebuild them right on the kitchen table. And then she also remembers the chief of police was buying Roger shots of tequila. And then she also commented, talking back to you're going back to that helmet we were looking at with the custom paint on there. Ron Hernandez painted that. He also painted the conversions vans at Rodco, and he's still painting murals.
Oh, no kidding. I didn't know
Wow.
that. No kidding.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If anyone else viewing has memories of Roger or stories to do with Roger, please share them in the comments. And she says he's open for business doing the murals and so forth, the painting.
Yeah.
And I do have another image to put up, but go ahead, Rick.
Yeah. We had a race out in Syracuse, New York. It's a 1 mile oval. It's a big track. It's too big for snowmobiles, but we raced it. Well, anyways, we had a guest there, Joe Frazier. So he was he had a mock race against the Polaris drivers. He drove a 74 Altigra, and I shook his hand. They had a small grandstand in the middle of the track. I was able to shake his hand. But Roger, he went to eat with those guys, and he sat at Roger's table with J.R. Tozier. And to this day, he said, Roger told me, he says, he didn't want to talk about boxing. He wanted to talk about snowmobile racing. He loved it. Joe Frazier.
Wow.
You know?
Wow.
And they sat there the whole night talking snowmobile racing and everything. And Roger says, I'd really like to get your autograph. So he autographed Roger on a napkin that sat at the table. And he did 2 of them. He gave one to J.R. Tozier. J.R. Tozier still has his. Wow. And Roger still has his. It's in a racing album with a Laconia patch on the cover. That Joe Frazier autograph is there because Roger showed it to me. Probably
That's amazing.
3 months ago. But it's just Roger was able to hang out with a lot of cool people.
Yeah.
Well, he people say he was a hellion, but then again, he was down to earth when it came to meeting people. You know what I mean? Treating them. Well, I mean, this is Joe Frazier, and he was cordial, and they had a great time. He said, "What a great night!"
Yeah.
To say I hung out with Joe Frazier and J.R. Tozier, you know. Well,
one thing I noticed about Roger on the phone, he had a lot of F-bombs and stuff when he was talking.
Oh yeah.
So I'm thinking, and he's coming to the induction, you know, because he's being inducted, and I'm thinking, oh my goodness sakes, you know, this lady's there.
How's it gonna go?
And you know, but what we found out was Roger knows when to, you know, when he's talking to the guys.
Right. When he's with the
guys.
guys.
It's a whole different ball game than when he came to the museum with everybody. You couldn't ask for a more cordial, nicer gentleman.
Yeah, very gentlemanly.
He was perfect gentleman.
Yeah.
Oh, and I went up to Roger afterwards and I said, Roger, I said, I commend you on how you're conducting yourself here today. I said I couldn't be happier because I didn't really know what we were going to be up against, you know.
Sure. And this is Roger at the induction when he was inducted.
There he is. Yeah.
But go ahead, please continue.
This meant the world to him. This was the probably highlight. Other than winning a big race, this was a highlight of his life.
Yeah. Well, this caps off a whole career.
Yeah.
This is the granddaddy of. You don't get any higher than the Hall of Fame.
No. I'm glad I was there to see it.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was happy for the old boy.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
And Moon Lover is saying hey to Pauline in the comment section.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
So anyway, so another little story about Syracuse, New York is we're running 100 miles an hour or more at the end of the straightaway. Well, a cleat come off his track and cut that tunnel almost in half. 73 XT, they're paper thin anyways. So you cut up into the seat 3 inches and cut the gas tank, and that was it. He says, how close if that had come up through the sleeve?
Yeah.
Oh.
One cleat did it all.
Yeah.
But Rod Hughes got him a tunnel, and they had it running for the next weekend. Tore it all apart and put it back together.
Yeah.
But that was another. He survived death, he said.
Yeah.
And it happened so fast.
That's the trouble with cleats.
Yeah. He said one cleat come off and cut the tunnel right in half. Went 3 inches up or 4 inches up into the seat, put a hole in the gas tank.
Yeah.
The one didn't blow up.
But you know, the problem is too, back then, the technology for the tracks and dry belts didn't quite keep up with the horsepower.
Oh no.
Louis Lund was clocked at 116 miles an hour at I think it was Scarborough Downs, which is a mile-long track, on that 72 IFS Chaparral, that 650 Chaparral, and then he blew a track.
Yeah.
It just couldn't stand. It couldn't handle the speeds.
Yeah.
Fly apart, and look at that. Look at the dry belt on Lewis Lucas Nash Polaris last year at Eagle River. He hit a little bit of a bump, cut the thing right in two.
Well, that's it. The slack of the track caught up quick, and it just put too much torque on the belt. And
those belts are $100 a pop.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Lexan belts.
Yeah.
Cut it right in half.
It's an expensive game, racing is.
For anybody to do what Roger did, knowing how things can go wrong, by gosh, he did pretty darn good.
Yeah.
I've got a picture. I've got him on video up in St. Albans. We raced there, and he's coming up the front straightaway with that 650, coming 3 feet off the ground, because it wasn't a flat track. It was a cornyard track and a barnyard track.
Yeah.
And that was a sanctioned event. But he's riding that thing, and it's coming up off the ground 3 feet, porpoising off the moguls. Let's call them moguls.
Unbelievable.
But wide open.
Yeah.
Wide open. But
wow.
Yeah.
No, his cancer slowed him down a little bit, I imagine.
Yeah.
But this is what he told me. He says, I was doing chemo, and I knew racing season was coming. And he said, I had 3 treatments left to go. And I told the doctor, that's it. No more. I'm going racing. And the doctor says, you'll never race again. Then he went out and he won the Massachusetts Governor's Cup. So
yeah, and look how many years Roger had after that the cancer never came back.
They only gave him 5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, they gave him 5 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So no,
I think it's determination, the will to live, determination. Yeah. I mean, he's stubborn. If everybody knows Roger, he's stubborn.
Stubborn, yeah.
Yeah, he's stubborn. He's going to do something, and that's it.
And that's it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
We've got a comment come in. This is Christine, Roger's daughter. She'd love to see that video that we're just talking about.
Oh, the one from St. Albans?
Yes.
Yeah. I'll see if I can get it to her. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. In fact.
And she says stubborn as a goat.
Tell her who has a copy of it. Cal has a copy.
Oh, wow.
I made her brother a copy. Well, I actually made it for Roger, because Roger said, well, I've never seen myself race before. I said, well, I've got you in St. Albans. And it was 8mm. We transferred it to DVD. There's no sound or anything, but the quality's there.
Now, was he running the Polaris then?
The pits on number 11. And then it shows him going out in his heat. And then he comes back and he wins the feature.
Huh.
And but anyways, Cal has that DVD. And there's also the Eagle River race on there too. But I'll make sure that Cal gets it to you.
Yeah,
So,
I'd like a copy of that myself. We can share that right here on the podcast sometime.
Yeah. The quality is not the best, so that's why I haven't really made it public. It's an old 8mm. We did the best we could to transfer it. So, but I'm glad Christine is on. Awesome.
Yes.
I know.
But go ahead, Midge. You were saying?
Yeah, just asking Rick if that was 1972, because I think that was the year he was running the Polaris.
Yeah.
St. Albans?
No, this was 74 in St. Albans.
Okay, because he won St. Albans in 72 as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I got the trophy here. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did very well up there.
Oh, yeah. Well, the thing is, the track is, it was basically out in the field. A lot like the first Lancaster race, and there was no ice. It was all slush.
Right.
But we did well up there. We did really well. Yeah. There was a lot of competition. So, I mean, the Thunderjets and the 650s were always big competition for those EXTs.
You must have got a lot of Canadian competitors too, because it's pretty close to the border up there.
Right, right.
So
I don't know how many were there that weekend, but it was a big crowd. It was a big race.
mhm.
But
Sure.
yeah, Roger won the 650, and I think he took a second in the 440 with the Yamaha, I think.
Mhm.
But
Nice. Now,
Yeah.
Pauline just shared a story with me, and if you're just joining us, we don't have audio on Pauline, unfortunately. She's Roger's sister, but she's leaving comments for me on the side here, and I've got one of them talking about Ron Hernandez. Ron Hernandez has a story of when Roger needed a ride to the track. They loaded the sled and tools into his van, and it was a tight fit, just barely fitting, but off they went to St. Albans.
yeah, I think I remember that van. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, I remember. We got to the track any way we could. It
Sure.
wasn't.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, nowadays they have these big trailers. I mean, we went out to Eagle River with a 73 Ford LTD with a 2-place trailer with 110 gallons of fuel on the trailer and one sled.
Wow.
And it was a 2-wheel drive LTD. We went through a blizzard in Buffalo. That's how we went to the races.
Wow.
We did what we could afford, I guess.
Yeah, you do what you can.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nowadays, it's so different. Big trailers.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
That's the original picture right there that my Aunt Betty saved. Cut it out of the newspaper or the Canaan, Canaan Times or whatever.
Yeah.
And Tom Espinoza contacted me and he says, I have the original newspaper photograph of that. I said, you do? So he sent it to me. And basically, I created 2 or 3 posters for Roger in different sizes off of that one print. In fact,
And that's the same image that's behind you?
Yes,
Is that
that's
the same image that's behind you?
right here. Yeah.
That's a heck of a photo right there.
Let me get out of the way for a minute.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, this is Roger on the 650. I believe that is J.R. Toja over there.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And then we've got images too from the Hall of Fame when he was inducted in 2020.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was so happy.
Shaking hands with Paul Crane. And
Yeah.
yeah, that was a big day.
Yeah.
And yeah, here we go. This thing is
Yeah.
awfully fast. Here we go, getting a photo opportunity with Paul and Midge.
Yeah.
And then this is the class of, it's hard to stop where I want to on this. Class of 2020 for the Eastern Snowmobile Racing Hall of Fame. And that's him on the
Roger
right there.
was right on cloud 9.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Paul LaMontagne, George Gordon, Judy
Yeah.
Rinaldi.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the year. Well, that was during COVID,
Yes.
2020.
And Mark
And,
Belanger accepted for Tom Peters, I believe.
Yeah. It's Paul Belanger.
So we had to postpone that until the fall.
Hmm.
We normally, as Mike can attest, we always had it inside the museum.
In the spring, yeah.
Right, in the spring. We always had it in May, April, tail end of April, 1st of May. And so with COVID, we decided, let's wait. We'll go through the summer and see what happens. And so it got near the fall. I said to Paul, what we could do is we could do an outside ceremony. That way we're not spreading COVID. And by that time, people have had their shots if they wanted them, right?
Yeah.
So it gave me a little extra time to do a couple more people. So that's the only year that we did 7 instead of 5.
Yeah.
That's because I had all summer to do a couple more people. And so that's why you have so many people there, is because of that.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's a good picture. I like that picture.
That's a good picture.
Yeah, it's Jim Gauchillon, I believe, runs the Skidoo Blizzard.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. At the Lancaster Motel.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm getting an autograph from Roger.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I believe, is that Bruce Dunham?
Yeah, I think that's Bruce.
Yeah, I believe
Yeah.
that's Bruce Dunham.
Over at the museum, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Roger.
Yeah. That's a good shot.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll tell
There
you.
we go. Paul Lamonte.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll
Go
tell
ahead,
you
Rick.
who used to room with Roger a lot was J.R. Tozier.
Oh yeah.
He says they used to room together, like out in New York at the Syracuse 1 Mile Oval. I believe they roomed together. And he said, of course, we were young then too.
Yeah.
We were wild, and after the race, had a great times. They really enjoyed each other's company, and J.R. Tozier's top shelf. He and Roger got along famously.
Yeah.
Yeah, they got along really well. Yeah.
Nice.
Roger's there with his poor man tux.
Yes.
Yeah.
And now we've got a comment that's come in from Judy Rinaldi. She was the first woman to be inducted into the Eastern Snowmobile Racing Hall of Fame. And I'm going back to that group picture so we can get a look at her. We're right here. She's third from the right, the lady in red there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
What a fantastic gal.
Yeah.
I'm really excited that she's viewing tonight with us. But go ahead.
I never had a chance
Rick.
to meet her in the day, and fantastic person. Well,
Yes.
Oh, we love our Judy.
We sure do.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Very cool. And then continue with the images here. We've got here we go. This is Roger and Rick. Is this at your house, Rick?
That's Roger's place. What I did is I did these for him for Christmas, and I didn't tell him I was doing them. And I took that one print that we had and I enlarged it at Walmart and kept enlarging it, and it was coming out pretty clear.
Yeah.
So I made Roger a set of posters, and they hang in his house today, or they were.
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
Roger picked out his photo for the plaque. I asked him what he wanted for photo, and that was the one he wanted. So
yeah,
he's holding a trophy.
Yeah,
I think that was his favorite because that's when he won the Massachusetts Governor's Cup.
Yeah, that's when he was on his Yamaha.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to grab me a soda? Oh, okay.
cool. And then we get trophies and
Yeah.
And this is where you're sitting now, right, Rick?
Yes. Well, actually, my back is to this.
Sure. Yeah.
If you move, they can do.
I'm good.
Now, I think there's a story behind that hood on the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is. That's Sabrina Blanchett's pro champ hood. And I got a call from Lucas Nass. And he said, will you be interested in the seat and the hood? And I said, yeah, absolutely. And not from just a collector standpoint, but someday I want to build a chassis underneath it, which I probably will. And I've got the seat over here, beautiful seat. And just a nice collectible,
Yeah. That's cool.
And,
Yeah.
but I'm slowly.
That hood probably raced at Lancaster.
Oh yeah, yeah.
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 She won about everything going here in 2017.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's doing phenomenal. I'll say that.
Yeah.
Talented lady. Yeah. Very talented.
It'd be interesting this year. I trying to help out the Woodstock, New Brunswick track. They're trying to make sure they have another classic event. So I told them I would help them, try to advertise and do what I can to promote a great race there. This past one they had last year was probably the best video I've ever watched.
Wow.
Sabrina's running a 340 against the 440s. Lucas Nass led for quite a few laps.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
this picture shows Roger at my house with his. We did his resume that day, and I'm not sure what happened to all the racing bibs. Hopefully, somebody will find him.
I'd like to know.
What's that?
I'd like to know what happened to them.
Well, I think Christine and Cal. I don't know if they had them on display at the celebration or not. I know they had a lot of albums there. So
well, as long as they're in a good, safe place.
Yes.
Well, that's what I said. As long as they're not in the bottom of a tote out in the garage somewhere.
Right.
If you've got them, put them up so people can see them.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just for Roger to be able to keep these this long, they were pretty important, pretty special. Yeah. And the number 7 bib, number 11, those are hard fought bibs.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah.
mean,
You run those, yeah.
and the thing is, in 74 and 75, there was not a lot of ice, so it was slush and mud.
Oh
And
boy.
a lot of, at the end of the day, you'd be soaking wet, and especially Lewiston. And so a lot of these bibs are hard fought.
Hard fought.
And the thing is, to stay in the top 100 of the Eastern Division for 4 years in a row is quite an accomplishment.
Yeah.
And in modified, you're in the top 50 in your class.
And look how many heat races that they had to endure just to get to the final.
Oh yeah, yeah. I raced out in Cobleskill, New York. I think I had a heat, a semi-feature, and then finally a feature. 78 seds in Seesaw. So that's what Roger was faced with, that type of thing, and a lot of heats and a lot of features and semi-features. You don't see that nowadays.
You're totally whipped at the end of the day, Rick.
Oh yeah.
You're totally whipped at the end of the day, and now you got to go back and pull the engine off and rebuild it.
Yeah.
And get it ready for the next race, for the next day. Because most events were a 2-day event. Yeah. Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see Pauline posted. The number 78 bib is missing from this picture because he lost it in the emergency room out in New York.
Oh.
He got in an accident, he went to the emergency room, and the bib never came back with him.
Wow.
So he lost that one bib at the hospital somewhere.
I'm sure the hospital people had no idea what that was,
No.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
And then, Christine says, I believe Cal has the bibs, and we talked about getting them to Rick to be put with the rest of his trophies. Very nice.
Oh, cool. Well, we didn't want to ask, I was just glad the helmet was coming here so we can put it in the Hall of Fame. And they're really special. They're really, to some people they might not be. But to us racers, that's what we race for all year.
Yeah.
We wanted to try to get in the top 100 because then you get a gold bib.
Yeah.
That's right.
Back in the 70s, they were rare. It was very rare you'd see a gold bib driver. And so it was nice to have. It's something we all tried to achieve during our racing career.
Yeah.
And Roger did well in modified.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did really well. You've got to not only win, but you've got to place. You've got to be consistent. If you lose a race, or at least hopefully you're in the top 3, and you figure it out for the next weekend, but you still made points.
Sure.
And that's what
Christine is saying that everything should be together, and that Roger would love that.
Right.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
My dream is to have a separate building, at the museum for just the Hall of Fame. That way we'd have a lot more room to display stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
That's all up to Paul, but
sure.
It probably won't happen, but it would be cool if it did.
Yeah, it's a nice idea.
Well, hopefully someday,
Yeah.
Yeah.
You'll put an addition on. Depends how big the Hall of Fame gets. I mean,
Paul jokes with me. He says, when you cut the check for the $50,000, he said, I'll start breaking ground.
Yes.
And if I had 50,000, I'd give it to him.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. If I won the lottery, I'd be ponying up.
Absolutely. That'd be cool.
And I'll do the foundation.
Yeah. That's right, Rick.
Yeah, I do the foundation for him.
That the building right there now is 100 by 50. If you did a 50 by 50 addition,
you
could put the race sleds in there and have plenty of wall space for the plaques and stuff like Roger's bibs and things like that, and photos,
artifacts. Yeah,
that'd be real cool.
That would.
Well, it's things that are, case in point, Roger kept these trophies all these years.
Yeah,
all these years.
That meant something.
It's what we lived for back in the day.
It was one of the best times in your life.
Oh, it was, without question.
Yeah.
It was the best time of my life.
Yeah.
And the fact that I was able to do it with my father made it even better.
That was even better. I mean, those are the memories that you're going to carry with you.
Yeah. I mean, we had quite a team too. We had like George Gordon, my father and I, and Michael Gordon, and we had my cousin Gary Simula. We were a close-knit team. We all ran together. We worked together.
Yeah.
And whenever I had my hood up, George would have his head in there. So, yeah, it's a true story.
Yeah.
Nice.
George won't deny it either. Yeah.
Sure.
But
and Pauline is asking if anyone knows where his first trophy is, and it was a bowl sitting by his computer.
His first trophy is a little 2 or 3 inch cup, and it stood next to it. When I went over there, he called me over and come over and get the trophies.
Yeah.
He says, I got to keep this one, Rick. I said, sure. So you keep whatever you want, Roger. They're yours. So, no, I got to keep this as my first trophy, and it was a 5th place trophy. I don't remember where the race was, but that trophy meant more to him than any of them.
Wow, because it was the first
and it was
one.
Sitting next to his computer when we left that day, because it was. I'd say it's probably 5 inches total in height, and it's a 5th place trophy, but that's the one he wanted to keep.
Wow, that's amazing. And Jeff Wesner is viewing tonight. He says it's great remembering Roger Poulin, the racer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, Roger when he was racing, as races, we don't go up to other races and say, hey, how's it going? Because they might have either placed or they didn't do as good as they thought they did. They wanted to. So you leave them alone. Everybody leaves each other alone.
Yeah.
The only place we'd meet is after the race. Then the stress was over.
Right.
Whether we won or we lost.
Right.
And,
right.
So we never communicated with each other at a racetrack. The only time when Roger wanted to borrow my Skidoo. But other than that, we all kept to ourselves until after the race.
Well, yeah, your mind was on one thing.
Yeah.
And it wasn't on small talk.
Focused. Yeah, need to stay focused.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it was on trying to be competitive, and it's a lot of work to try to be competitive. I mean, you can ask Lucas Nass. You got to work on them and test them, and then work some more.
Yeah.
And you still don't know if you're faster than the next guy until you get beside him.
Yeah.
Now we also have when you feel that the time is right, we've got Roger's induction video clip, and we also have an interview with him. So whenever you feel like the time is right, if you have more stories, we can do more stories. But when you feel like the time is right, let me know, and I'll play those clips.
Yeah, whatever Midge says. Yeah.
I'd start playing that, Mike, and then we can maybe talk it up a little bit after.
Yeah,
definitely. Oh yeah, we'll have plenty to say about it. Let me pull it up here. So here's his induction in 2020. Just taking a moment for this to load here. Getting the dreaded hourglass. Here we go. I think it's loading.
Poulin, racer promoter, inducted into the Eastern Snowmobile Racing Hall of Fame 2020. Roger began his snowmobile racing career in 1967 on a Skidoo 340 SS, displaying an early talent for going fast. He jumped to the big 669 Skidoo for 1969, always placing in the top 5 at every event he entered. Roger swept all 4 events at Bethel, Vermont in 1970, taking first places in the oval, drags, cross country, and slalom. In 1971, Team Rodco made a good choice when offering Roger a chance to race Arctic Cats. Besides winning at smaller events, he grabbed a 2nd and a 3rd at Wolfboro, New Hampshire, Northampton, Mass., and 2 first-place finishes in Mod 2 and Mod 3 at Laconia, New Hampshire. Changing to Polaris in 1972, Roger was unbeatable in C-Stock and Mod 4 at every event he entered, and took many first and second place finishes in Mod 1 and Mod 5. Roger sometimes raced in 4 different classes in one day. He changed brands again for 1973, returning to Rodco's Arctic Cat, and continued his winning ways by taking 2 firsts at Ludlow, Vermont in Mod 3 in the open class, but it was at the New Hampshire State Championship in Wolfboro where Roger got his name on the Big Top, becoming top point champion for 1973. For the 74-75 seasons, besides now holding over 60 top wins in 8 years of racing, Poulin claimed back-to-back titles in the Massachusetts State Championship and had his best year yet in wearing a number 7 gold bib around his chest and an invitation to the World Series of Snowmobile Racing in 1974 at Eagle River, Wisconsin, where he led the field in the early going on this hallowed historic track until his sled blew a clutch. We know who won that race. He's here today, Herb Yancey. Roger sponsored many local snow races and grass drags near his hometown of Randolph, Vermont, and was the main tech at EXT instructor for Rodco distributors, manning many hours on the phone and out in the field solving problems for their dealers. In April of 1976, at only 25 years old, Roger Poulin was diagnosed with cancer, cutting his short and incredible racing career. It, however, for Mr. Poulin, was just another win. Because he's here today. Mr. Roger Poulin, come up here, please.
That's all right. All right. Well, everybody's been saying what everybody's going to say about thanking these guys for doing a wonderful job. Thanks. I guess they want me to tell a story. I dressed up today. I put my necktie on. So, Mr. Paul Crane and Midge, they did such a wonderful job. Everybody respects you and loves you for what you do. I look out across this field of drivers right here, and I'm honored to be part of the elite. I see a couple guys with my favorite ones to race against, side by side, and J.R. Tozer and Cal Reynolds. J.R. was a gentleman driver. He's a good driver, but he wasn't aggressive in the corner. I used to like come up on maybe beside him and get right tight, and he'd get all nervous and all, but he didn't like a banging sled. I just get a kick out of that. One day was... One day we was at a race and I looked back and I'm leading. He jumped his 440 and 650 class and I'm leading. I look back after a lap and there's just JR behind me, ways back, and nobody behind him. I saw it's all right. I eased up and went back to see him. And I'm doing a real close thing again. Got him all nervous. We're going to do third, fourth corner and start picking up snowballs. We're throwing snowballs at him. It wasn't long. I see that fist come up and I know what he was saying underneath that helmet he had on. I love the guy. One day, I was in Pennsylvania, Cal, Justice, Pennsylvania, I think it was. On Saturday, I got hurt. It was the only second time I went to the hospital from racing and wrenched my hip all to hell. And I come back the next day because I love running my 650, favorite sled I ever ran in my life. And of course, everybody come by and see me how I'm doing. The racing director was Del. Okay. What was the last name? Del Colony. He come ask me how I'm feeling, and I lied to him. I said, I feel good, I'm a little bit sore. I was hurting like a son of a gun. And I don't know if I went to see Cal or if he comes see me, because he's the only competition I had there at that track that day. And I remember telling Cal, I said, listen, if you could go by me today, just go by me. No fussing around. We can't do no bumping and running over each other like we usually do. We'd hit hard, him and I. We'd go at it. Yeah, he said, no problem, Roger. You know how long that lasted? It lasted as long from the start line to the first corner. We went in the first corner, next thing you know, Cal gives me a shot, sends me right to the snowbank. Well, I floundered in the snowbank to make sure I stopped the race. And we went back, and now my adrenaline's starting to go. I'm forgetting about the soreness. And I go and we take off. Again, it's Cal and I gone off the line. And I said, I'm going to fix him, mister. I pulled over on the inside of him, and when he let off going that first corner, I didn't. I reached right over and I picked him right up in my sled, and I took him right to the snowbank. I turned on the snowbank, Cal went over. And when I turned, I looked over my left shoulder, his Cal totally upside down. His arms were both of them like this, and his legs the same way, but he was upside down about 4 feet above the snowbank. I hooked him around, and I stopped at the fourth. I didn't go down the line. I stopped, and I came out of the fourth, and I waited for Cal. He comes up, and he's spitting and chewing snow and taking it out of his helmet and cleaning his glasses. I said, you all right? He said, yeah. I said, hey. He got all cleaned up. I said, now you ready to go racing? He said, yeah, okay, we win. It was a great day. I took first, Cal took second. Like it did happen a lot. But when I started racing, I didn't do nothing but a little bit of seat time. And so I got to watch all these guys. And one guy I watched a lot was Cal Reynolds, because he's running them big machines. And I got the most respect for that person way back in the old days, as I did when I got better at kicking his ass. A lot. And I still have all the respect in the world for that man. He's probably my idol. When it comes to racing, Cal is my man. Don't plug that mic. I was hoping my son would come today, but he had trouble with his own son. They got their thing they're doing, which is good. My son's name is Roger Poulin, and I wanted him to be Cal because of telling him how I respected this man, and I wanted Cal to hear that I gave my son his middle name. So, I don't know where to go with this. Yeah, I remember I used to think racing 24/7 outside in the fall waiting for it to rain. Snow. And I raced and I learned and I learned. I raced with great people, and they had more money behind me. It was a shame. I either had a racing for a millionaire or a distributor, and I always had everything I wanted. And then one day, in February, I took a championship, governor's cup or something in Massachusetts, and that was in February. And in April, and it was 75 that I got sick with cancer. And in 75, they give me 0 to 3 months to live. Well, racing went out of me just like it calls a switch off a light. It was gone out of me, and it's never come back. 16 months later, they gave me 0 to 3 months to live. So my racing started in April that year, 75. And I fought, and I made it. Thank God for that. Thank you. There's nothing like people that support racing, support everyone who's involved. I can't thank you enough. Well, Bob Clark taught me how to drink. I raced for him one year, him and Conrad, all that. Well, we had a drink or two. So anyway, it's a wonderful thing. I'm glad you're all here. I'm going to get away from this mic. I'm going to bore you to death. Reynolds will be over here, give me a butt in the head. I want to thank you again. Thanks, guys.
I need a picture with your plaque, please.
Okay.
Oh, this way go.
Where you guys want to get?
You're right in there, Paul.
Come on over here, Paul.
There you go.
Give me a hand.
I'll do another one.
Thank you. Stop shaking.
You?
Thank you very much, guys. Thank you.
Now to get away.
About 6 months ago, Roger sends me an email with a photo of a patch. And he said, I want to make up some patches for you guys for the Hall of Fame. He said, I think we could sell some. Well, it had another cat on it. Well, I like cats, you know, nothing wrong with a cat, but I'm thinking that, only cat people are going to buy these patches. So that was the end of that. And then, little did I know, Roger went back to the drawing board. And about a week ago, he sent me another email with a picture of a new patch. And he says, Midge, he says, check this out. I pretty near dropped to the floor. On this patch is Cal Reynolds. I can tell you it's Cal because of his scarf. His scarf is flying back in the wind behind his neck there, and then in the middle is Conrad Rollins on that PDC Starfire that he raced in 1975 at Bangor there in the middle. And then Roger is sitting on an Arctic Cat. They're all lined up and ready to go. Now, when Cal brought that box in of goodies there a few years ago, the first thing I did was dump the entire contents looking for that blue scarf. I said to my wife, I said, he had put that scarf in here somewhere. Well, he never did. The scarf wasn't there in that box, but you know what? If you want a scarf of Cal Reynolds, you buy one of these patches right here. He did a great job. I want to thank Roger for this. Proceeds are going to go to, he said after I pay the bills for the patch, he said the profit's going to the Hall of Fame. And I gave Vicky one, Vicky Rollins, and I told Vicky, I said, I don't know how many patches you're going to need for your family, but I don't think you're going to have to get out your wallet. Anybody should buy a patch for Vicky and then buy one for themselves. This is a heck of a patch right here.
I'll take 100.
Right there, Cal. Right there. Awesome patch. All right. All right.
Yeah, that's good stuff right there. That's classic
Yeah,
moment.
that's good stuff.
But thoughts, reactions.
Well, it was a heck of a day. We had because George Gordon was inducted on the same day too, and Rick knew both of them well, so it's a kind of a great situation that both these guys were inducted. But I know Roger called me up 2-3 days before he was going to come over for this. He says, Midge, he says, you got to give me a stool. He says, I'm going to have something set on. I says, all right, I can get you a stool. Yep, got to have a stool set on. He says, I'm going to He says, I'm going to have a story to tell. So we grabbed a stool. I don't know whose stool that is, but I don't know if Paul brought it down or something. But anyway, Roger's the only guy that had to have a stool for his induction.
Nice.
So yeah,
That's a great video.
it was a great day. And
Great video.
Yeah, great video.
Yeah, great
Yeah.
video.
Oh, and for the record, I'm not blowing my nose because I'm emotional. I'm blowing my nose because I've got a hell of a cold.
Oh, yeah.
And I mute the
Wow.
microphone when I sneeze, thankfully. But please continue.
Yeah, that I don't know if Rick has anything to add to this or not. So,
Well, it's this right here meant so much to Roger.
yeah,
And this is classic Roger.
yeah,
You know, what you see is what you get.
yeah,
And he was very grateful, very grateful.
yeah.
You know, and the patch, well, the patch is still around today.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. We
I've
still
got a
have
couple.
some for sale.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I've got one. I'm going to send to Pauline. She wants a patch, so
Yeah,
good.
and I'm probably going to make some copies of this picture I have behind me in a
Yeah.
smaller format, so that if Christine, Cal, and Pauline want one, I'll make one up for them.
yeah.
Oh, that's
You know,
nice. Yeah.
it's a great competitive picture.
Oh,
You know.
definitely. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
It tells it like it is, pretty
Yeah,
much. And Roger won the race. That's
self-explanatory.
yeah,
that's-
self-explanatory.
That's how it was.
Yeah.
Oh, and
And-
Christine says yes, please, on that image.
And what's important about the picture is he won the race. So
Yeah,
with all
Yeah.
those competitors behind him. So,
Oh,
Yeah.
and Holly Keaton is saying that she'd like one too.
what's that?
Holly Keaton is saying that she'd like a picture too.
Yeah, okay. Just message me on Facebook, and I'll be glad to. It's easy to do at Walmart, and
yeah,
I say I've got Christine, Cal, and Pauline, and anybody else who wants one. It's a great photo. So
Yes.
but,
yeah.
no,
Yeah, so,
it was great to finally get him in the Hall of Fame, only because what he endured with cancer and all that.
right.
Yes.
I mean, they gave him 5 years to live, you know, and then to go on and continue racing. Well, I guess the doctor says you'll never race again, and Roger says, "Watch me," and walked out the door.
Yeah.
He had 3 chemo treatments ready to go, left to go,
Yeah,
and he told the doctor, "You watch me," and he walked out the door.
That's
So,
his spirit.
I don't know as I could do that. You know what
and
I mean?
he
Chemo is
lived
nothing
another
to-
48 years
yeah,
after that.
yeah.
Yeah,
And it's
so
just
he
the fact that,
defied all odds.
yeah, chemo
Yeah.
isn't nice. You know, that's a good picture. That's my favorite.
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah.
And that was
Yeah,
in-
good-looking
that was
young
about
man
that
right
time. That was about that time too, wasn't it?
Yeah, 70. Had to be 75 or so.
yeah,
Yeah,
Oh, it just moved on me. Let me get that back. There we go. Oops. It's hard to stop where I want to with this thing.
yeah. That's a good photo right there.
yeah,
Yes.
Yeah.
That
That's the
captures his
Roger I remember
personality.
racing with. Yeah,
Yes, that captures his personality.
yeah.
yeah.
Now, did he always have a gravelly voice like that, Rick?
Yeah,
Even
pretty
when he was
much.
younger?
Yeah, always
He
has.
did.
Yeah, probably not as quite as bad as now, but
Yeah.
his voice, he had a different tone to it.
Yeah.
You know,
That
but
was the first time he called there. I'm thinking I'm listening to Hulk Hogan here. You
I'll
know.
tell you, on the racetrack, nobody dared mess with him.
Oh no.
If you
No.
ran into him, you want to apologize and make
Whoa.
sure he knows you're sincere. Because on the next lap,
Roger never forgot it.
no,
If
No.
you did anything wrong to Roger on the track,
yeah,
he knew it right up until the day he passed.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Wild.
Yeah, he remembered it, all of it. So
Well, Christine says one of a kind. Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
And then
Yeah,
I've also
he-
go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'll make sure he's remembered for years to come.
yeah.
Yes.
You know, and the same with Conrad Rollins and all those fellas. You
Yeah.
know, somebody's got to keep it in the limelight, let's say,
Yeah.
for the younger folks.
Yeah.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
know, and hopefully somebody does this for me someday. You know,
Yes.
It was it was a wild time back then. It was a brand new sport, and it was so exciting, and the innovations that were coming out. The change in the snowmobile was so rapid.
Yeah.
As far as racing goes, you couldn't race a 1-year-old sled. It would be wouldn't even be competitive.
We had a 71 EXT 292, and we tried to campaign it in 72, and my 250 would blow the doors off the 71. We tried to compete with it up in Lewiston.
Yeah.
And Gary raced the 71. I raced my 72 250.
Yeah.
And could handily beat him. Just didn't have the power.
No.
And it didn't handle as well either.
Yeah.
The 72 was a lot flatter, but there's so much technology involved,
Oh, yeah, and a rapid pace.
Yeah. Well, case in point, we're down in Thompsonville, Connecticut, and we blew the engine in the 292. So in a heat lane, we pulled the cylinders and heads off, and the piston looked okay. We went over to Aerospace Technology, and it gave us 2 cylinders. And my father says, what's the charge? Don't worry about it. Just get them on and go racing. Never saw a bill. It wasn't even processed.
No.
We called Rodco about it, and he says, we haven't got a bill. It's
that's how it was done.
Yeah.
I know when 1 year at Bangor, well, we had a sled that needed a crank. He broke a crank off. It was a 76 340 TX. And the crankshaft and 250s were the same. They're the same stroke, just a bigger bore for the 340. So Dick said, take your engine, pull the engine off. The sled that I was driving, it was a demonstrator for the year. It was a 250 TX. He says, Midge, he said, to get the customer going, he said, pull your cylinders off, put his pistons and cylinders on your base, and get him going. Yeah. So that's what I did. So now I'm without a sled, and I was without a sled for 2-3 weeks because the cranks were back ordered.
Right.
So we get to Bangor, and we go up to the Polaris race trailer, and Bob Eastman was in there, and Bob and Dick were talking, and Bob says, how's things going? Dick says, okay. He said, we've got a sled. He says, the guy's been waiting on it for 3 weeks now, almost a month, waiting for a crankshaft for his 340 TX. He said, I had to rob Midge's 250 base and crank to get the guy going, and now Midge doesn't have a sled.
Yeah.
So Bob disappeared in the back of the van. He came up, and he had one right in plastic, and he handed it to Dick. He says, it looks something like that? Dick says, yep. And Dick says, how much for it? And Bob says, take it. Says, we got all kinds of them. But you see, they were keeping them for the race trailer. They were probably a little bit short from Japan, and they needed some for the races. So anyway,
well, they weren't worried about the money. They wanted to keep the sport moving.
That's exactly right. Exactly,
they wanted to keep it moving, and
I understand that Roger. He was he did that for Rodco, I think, in the summer months. He manned the phone, and tech for tech help for people that were having problems with a sled. They'd call, and Roger would man the phone. So he did a lot of stuff like that too, as well as racing.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, that's what we had to do, even in the shop, even in the dealership. We take a part off a brand new machine and put it on a used custom machine.
You did that a lot. Yeah,
just to get it going,
Yeah, you had to.
Just to keep them riding on the weekends.
Yeah. That's what dealers had to do.
These fellas worked all week. They want to ride in the weekend. So
absolutely,
we experienced that time and time again.
Yeah, and you know what, Rick? The competition down the street was so fierce. You had to be good.
Oh yeah.
You had to be, and they were cutting prices and everything back then.
Oh yeah.
So you had to do what you had to do to keep your dealership viable.
Well, from my father's standpoint, we kept changing locations, trying to get more and more business. Mm-hmm. In 5 years, we bought 6 different dealerships in 5 years, just to try to gain more people. A better sales base. so you could reach more people.
Right.
And, you know, that's how you had to do it. You had to reach out to more people.
Yeah.
Cat was asking us to take a lot of sleds too, 50 or 100 at a whack.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
you had to have people to sell them to.
Right. Right. Yeah. The market for after a while, it became so saturated that that's why a lot of the, you know, even like Snowjet and Chaparral and Rupp and so many of the nice, you know, John Deere, so many of the major brands, there just was not enough room for so many sleds.
Well, yeah, 74 was our last year in business, and Rodco, we had, I think, 5 sleds left in the crate, and there was no snow. We couldn't sell them.
Oh, yeah.
And Rodco said, well, we're going out of business as a distributor, and we would like you to take 50. And my father, you know, 50? What am I going to, I got 4 brand new ones now, and you just couldn't sell them. But anyway, getting back to Roger, it's, you know, I'm going to miss him. And
we're all going to miss him.
I'm going to miss him. And, you know, he was.
I'm going to miss his phone calls.
Yeah. You never know what you're going to get, you know.
Yeah.
But,
hey,
our
man,
last
you
meeting
old
was
dog, what you doing?
our last meeting was a good one. He was in good spirits, and you know, he fist bumped me on the way out, and he said, "Oh, I'm going to get you in the Hall of Fame, Ricky." I said, "Yeah, okay."
Yeah.
You know, and that was the last.
He
time
wanted to come to the induction this last fall.
Yeah, I know he did.
He was really wanting to come to that.
Yeah. Oh, I know. Yeah.
Now, speaking of that, when Roger was inducted, Pauline had made a comment in here earlier. And in case you're just joining us, we have Pauline on the screen, but we have no audio for her. We worked on that earlier, just couldn't make the audio happen. But she's leaving comments for us. She says, for Roger, being inducted into the Eastern Snowmobile Racing Hall of Fame was the icing on the cake for all of the many years of dedication, hard work, and lots of racing.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then we've also got a comment from Mad Dog Viewing. He's wondering about those patches, wondering if we could mention again how we could get one of those patches. And thank you for the great racing history that we're doing here. Very interesting. And Midge, if you wanted to hold that patch up one more time and talk up how they might get a hold of the Eastern Snowmobile Racing Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I could mail him a patch. I think we're getting $5 a patch for him, and it's all going directly to the Hall of Fame. And
now how many do you have left, Midge?
I'm not sure, Rick. 20 maybe.
Yeah. Okay, so I think I've got 3. So
yeah. So people, the thing is with patches, people don't put patches on their suits anymore much, you know, not like they used to. Remember, everybody used to have. It used to be how big a fan you were with all the patches.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
That video that Mike and I did there was a guy that walked by and his suit was covered from head to toe with
time capsule
patches.
video. Yes.
But this here is a keeper. Even if you don't want to put it on a, suit, it's just something to have.
Yes.
And you're helping out the Hall of Fame.
Right.
You could actually put it in a, if you got a picture of a race sled or something, you could stick this in the corner in a frame.
Yeah.
You could put that down in the corner and with a picture of a snowmobile.
Yeah. The reason I asked is I may buy a few. I'll buy a few when I'm up the Hall of Fame again. When I bring this helmet up to you or at some point like that.
Yeah.
I'd like to buy 5 of them. So.
Yeah, sure, Rick.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, well, we'll give you a little deal on it if you're going to get that many.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Not worried about it. The money's going to a good cause.
It's going to a good cause. It's not the price of the, let's face it, there's probably, I don't know how much money they got in making these patches. So it's a long time since this is 4 years ago or 5 years ago since Roger started making this patch. And I don't know how much each one cost at that point. And, it's not the $5. It's the idea that, it's going to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I think we had roughly $2.50 a patch. $2.
Was it? Yeah. Okay.
$2.50 in a patch.
Okay. Yeah. Good.
Yeah, it's $250 for 100.
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
while we're talking about these patches, I have to say something about Roger's character. When he had those patches that day at the 2020 Hall of Fame induction ceremony, I wanted 2 of them, and I handed him a 20, thinking I was handing him a 10, and he caught it right away and said, "Oh, you gave me too much," and he gave me back
Yeah,
the 10.
yeah,
So
yeah.
that says a lot about his character. A lot of people
Oh,
might
yeah.
have taken
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you're not gonna beat Rogers as far as that goes.
Yeah.
Uh,
I always respected that
he'd
about him.
rather take a good licking than beat anybody.
Sure.
Right.
You know.
Sure. And then Pauline has some more comments. She says, I remember when Roger's sled broke while racing at the track, and the Arctic Cat Formula race team, which he didn't race for, pulled out a new sled from their race trailer and gave it to him to finish his racing, which is really cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
And
what
then
they did.
she
Yeah.
also says that's how well revered and respected he was from his fellow racers.
Mhm.
And then Rick, she's saying also, Rick, please tell about the large patch on his suit that Roger had on his suit.
Oh, on the back of his suit, they made a series of patches, Rodco did, and only the pristine racers got one. But Roger has one of those patches on the back of his racing suit. And I
Wow.
mentioned it to Pauline the other day. I said, that's a valuable patch to people that were from that era. Like I saw Dennis Kowaleski had one. Roger had one. I think his son, Rod Hughes' son, had one, and Keith Lowell had one too. Not
Wow.
very many were made for those guys. And
That's cool.
Roger got, like I said, Roger was good enough to get one.
Yeah.
And then Jim Holbrook is asking, are we going to have some more of those made up after they all sell?
Well, that's a question.
No, this is it. Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
think we'll have any more. Yeah,
Sure.
No.
yeah, no.
Sure.
Well, like Midge stated, not a lot of people put them on their suits anymore.
No,
It's true, yeah.
They don't.
No.
No. Some
but-
still do, but
If I tell you, if you're a fan of that era, you're not going to get any better than Cal Reynolds, Conrad Rollins, and Roger Poulin. You
Yes.
exactly.
know, you're not going to get any better than that.
Yeah, they did a beautiful job on that patch.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh! I mean, you can see the decals on the side of the hoods.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The number 27 on Cal's sled. You can see the. You can see the. I'll put my finger on Cal. Yeah, right there.
Yeah.
You can see the checkerboard around the perimeter of the bottom of the cab.
Yeah, represent
yeah.
the blizzard. Yeah.
You know, the black and white checkered stripes that they used to
Yeah.
put around them.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's just an amazing patch, and you can see the throttle cable
Yeah.
coming down off the handlebar on Roger's sled.
Well, I think this again explains what the Hall of Fame meant to Roger. In order for him to design a patch, take the time, pay for it out of his own money,
Yeah,
and then, for the proceeds go to the Hall of Fame. The
yeah.
Hall of Fame meant a lot to him. And
I
that's why
don't think he
did it.
even recovered. I think he just ended up. I'm not sure how much money we got that first day when he was inducted, but he told me afterwards. He said, "Yeah, just keep him, Mitch."
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't think he even recovered what he had in him.
Wow.
I don't know.
He
I
just
don't know
wanted
if he really
he wanted to do it for the Hall, and
Yeah.
what little money he got back, he was fine with.
I
He
think
just
he-
wanted
yeah,
to
he
do
was
it for the
fine with
Hall of
that.
Fame.
He didn't do them for the profit. He did it for the Hall of Fame.
He did it for the
Yeah.
Hall of Fame. That's why he
Exactly.
did it. Yeah,
Yeah,
That was classy.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
yeah, yeah.
And then we've
No,
got
that patch. You did that once too, on that photo behind you. One time as a headline on your site.
Oh,
You
yeah, I
put
had
that
the patch in
patch.
the center. Yeah.
You had that patch down in the on that picture behind you, as you're looking at the picture, the lower
Yeah.
right hand corner,
Yeah.
so that it didn't obscure the photo of the other sleds.
Yeah.
And you use that for a headline for 2 or 3 days there.
Yeah.
And somebody could do that if they wanted that frame.
Yeah.
You could stick this patch right in there.
I had that picture, but I didn't know if it was appropriate to put it on or not, or.
Yeah, put it on. Yeah,
I
put
don't
it
have
on.
it now.
That was Roger's patch.
I've got it on my other laptop, but
Yeah. Okay.
Sure.
yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah. But
Now, I also have a video clip of an interview. I managed to catch Roger for an interview after he was inducted that day in 2020. And I'd like to roll that. And then after we look at that, we can react to it as well.
That ought to be classic.
Oh, yes. He had some great stories.
Yeah, that'll
Let
be
me
classic.
find that here. Yeah, right here.
I'm Roger Poulin, and I was just inducted into the Hall of Fame. Very honored to be in the same class with all the elite. My racing goes back to 1967 when I started at 17. And I couldn't run with the men until I was 17. My father wrote a note and gave it to the ski-doo dealer I was racing with. He gave me a ride to races every week. And when I registered up, he pulled that out of his wallet and I got to race with the men.
Nice.
My first 2 years was just really putting seat time in. But I did get on a lot of sleds and I did quite a bit of winning. And it was all out of my pocket. And we were at a barnyard race not far down the road from me. And I blew my sled all up on Saturday. And we're in a bar that night, and a fellow leaned back in his seat, and his name was Bob Belanger. He was vice president of Rodco. And he says, can you run a cat? I said, you put one under my butt, and I'll show you how I run a cat. So on Sunday, I won everything. I won the oval, the cross country, the slalom, and the drag.
Yeah.
So I must have impressed the people at Rodco a little bit, because they took me to Barrie the following week. And now this back in the day, there was a one-cylinder mod. That's what it was in 1970. And at the sanctioned race, long story short, I'm leading the final. I'm running away, and I blew the motor. Huh. So I turned it the inside of the fourth corner, and I kicked that hood. This is brand new sled, brand new. I kicked that hood. It flopped open and shut real quick. And Rod Hughes said to Bob Belanger, Rod Hughes being the president of Articat, the owner, and Bob being the vice, he said, you think the boy is mad? And he chuckled that off. Well, I must have impressed him because the following year, I was racing for Rodco. They gave me a 292 and a 340 alky burners and R&D, research and development. You'll hear me say R&D a lot. And did good. Jack Lynn had his team going, and Jack Lynn's brother was a chemist, and he used to send me up with 55-gallon drums of alcohol with all kinds of mixtures, and would send me stuff and say, put a cap full of this into a 5-gallon pail, don't get any on you. You wonder what you're playing with.
Yeah.
So that was a fun year, and I got to learn a lot, and I did well. And they did not race in 72. Rodco did not do nothing. So I ended up getting after Bob Clark for a ride on that 5-man team. And the only holdup was Louis Lund. Didn't know where he was going. He ended up finally going chaparral, and I got to ride on the team with Conrad Rollins and Jim Steele, Gary Pillsbury, and did good. My father, I had him buy a 340 TX that year because I told him to. I said, I want to race it. I'd already raced it once. My guy getting a divorce, he got repoed, and I said, I want you to buy that sled. Because I won the week before. So Dad bought it. And I took it on Thursday, and I had it from Thursday to Sunday. Sunday night, he could have his sled to Wednesday, go for trail riding.
Yeah.
And he was so proud. He went to races every week. He bought a motorhome so he could go. He was so proud of his son and proud of his sled out there. He was like my real first sponsor, you know,
Wow.
in 72 outside of Rodco.
Yeah.
And so that year, I was the only one on the team who went to the World Series. I qualified that 340 stalker and my 650 mod. And we went out. The other guys didn't do nothing. And so that was a good year with Bob Clark and so forth. The following year, I ended up going back to Rodco. Bobby Hughes and I were going to race together. But at the last minute, Rod Hughes said to Bobby, his son, he said, you're not going racing, you're going to learn business, and pull him right out. So that just left me, and now I had 4 sleds, which didn't really hurt my feelings.
Yeah.
So I had 2 on Saturday, 2 on Sunday, you know.
Nice.
And 73 was my best year. I just won and I won and I won. And I won at a 650 class every week. Charlie Lofton was running for the factory. He won every week. And I had to stay in New England because he's a New England distributor. Finally, they came up to Lancaster, New Hampshire, and I couldn't wait to get a hold of Charlie. So he went on his qualifier, I go out mine, the semi, we win. Now we get to the final. Now we're going to see what's going to go.
Yeah.
We come off the line, and then Charlie and I, boom. He was like third out second. I pulled right over beside him and stayed right there. I could have passed him in the corner, but I just stayed right there. I want to see what kind of power he had. And his factory team. And we hit the back stretch, and I am not 2 inches off Charlie, all the way around the corner coming out. And Charlie pinned it. He looked over at me, and I looked over at Charlie. And I went like this and pulled the rest of my hammer. And he must have had a 250 because I took off. I slingshot the corner, outside and inside the third, hit the snowbank, do a turn, and inside the fourth outlet, lay out and go. Well, when I turned it in the snowbank, I broke my suspension, which jabbed into the track. Now, when I turned it, I looked to my left, and Charlie was just going into the third. He's way behind.
Yeah.
That's the first line. So I hit the throttle, and the suspension caught the track. Then it blew the chain blew the chain case, it blew the belt, and took the crankshaft right out of the machine. I totaled it, all it did underneath me, and I never put a scratch in it, totaled it. So we're in the pit, and I got it sitting on an electric tailgate. Next thing you know, I got 3 guys who want to talk to me. He was the president of Arctic, the vice president, and Roger Skimes.
Wow.
He was
Roger Skimes himself.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I already had a resume into it because I really wanted a factory ride.
Yeah.
Yeah, I figured I'm just as good, if not a better driver than the factory guy out there as far as that's concerned. And
Yeah.
other people agreed. And the president of Arctic said to me, he says, wow, he said, Charlie had nothing for you. I turned around and looked at him and said, ain't nobody got nothing for me. And nobody did.
Yeah.
I was so fast.
Yeah.
There's a reason. So they wanted to buy my sled. I went saw it to them. Next morning, Monday morning, I took the sled in R&D and figured out exactly what happened.
Yeah.
And Rod called me up to the office, and he said, I heard you had a conversation with some people. I said, yes, I did. He says, why didn't you sell them the sled? I said, no, you'll sell them the sled. I said, remember I wanted price glass wallets, they didn't want to help me. So they just want to know why I'm so fast. So Rod, we went down to the warehouse and said to the fellow in the warehouse, are any more 650s? They said, yeah, I got one. He said, bring it to R&D. So I told him one on Sunday afternoon, Monday morning, I got a brand new one.
Nice.
Rod says, can you have it ready for the weekend? I said, my other 3 sleds are in good shape. Yeah, I'll have it ready. And I did. And the following week, I got to go overall champion at Thunder Road. My sled was really, really fast because the work that I did, and this is the trick. We have 40 millimeter carburetors. And being at the distributor, you hear things. And I hear things about next year we're going to have 44 mil. John Powell walks in one day, throws the briefcase up on my bench, opens it up with a grease rag, opens that up, and there's 3 slides, 44 millimeter slides. I look, I said, John, where did you get them? He says, I was down at Arctic and I stole them. I said, good job. Good job. I said, wait a minute. I went over and I spun the top off my 40 and I set it right there and I had enough meat. And I said, oh, yeah, John, I can use these. So he left and I left. And we had a machinist that worked for us, Rodco.
Yeah.
And I said, you meet me in my R&D at 1 o'clock after lunch. And I headed to the parts department I'm in, and I got 3 brand new 40s. And back and met me at 1. I said, I want these to fit in here. So we broke out the mics and everything. We checked everything. Yep, we can do it. I said, go. So we bored them out, all 3 carburetors for the slide to fit, and then I bored out the Ventura.
Yeah.
We put it on, jetted and everything, and it just wouldn't idle right low end. I couldn't get enough air, so I taken pilot jets out and put in the biggest pilot jet to give me the air, weren't enough. So I pulled out my number drills and I started drilling. Put them in, not quite, drill them, not quite. Well, I got it where it's supposed to be. That sled would sit there and crack. It didn't go blah, blah, blah. It was cracking, you know,
Yeah.
that throttle, it was, you know,
Really responsive, huh?
crazy responsive. When I put them carburetors on, I picked up more acceleration, and I never saw top end on that sled. The pull was unreal.
Yeah.
And I don't care who I was racing, I'd blow them away.
Yeah.
I blew the factory away. I blew Cal Reynolds. I blew any of them. Everybody. They didn't hold. I had them all like 15 miles an hour or better. That's a lot.
Yeah.
Sometimes 1 mile an hour, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
But no, I just annihilated them. So the following, I didn't go to the World Series that year. I qualified 3 classes, but I didn't go to the World Series. Malone was just money, and I didn't want to go. Anyway, Rodco was running out of money. They were having a hard time. And I expected any day I'd go to work and there'd be a padlock on R&D and I'd want to be over. But
Yeah.
no, Rod loved racing. And you win on Sunday, you sell on Monday.
Yeah.
And I'm winning all the time. Lots of winning going on. So he kept me going. That was nice of him.
Good. And that was translating to sales for them?
Oh, sure does.
Wonderful.
Oh, yeah. You win on Sunday, you'll sell on Monday.
Good.
And everybody knew me. I was just kicking ass.
Yeah.
If anybody's racing in my class, they knew right off the bat they're not winning.
Yeah.
It was that simple. So we made arrangements with a guy in Springfield. And my 650 went there, and I went with it. And that's all I ran that year was that 650, and I won so much, I got myself a number 7 bid.
Yeah.
Running just 1 sled. That's pretty cool. That's kind of
Yeah.
thing to do. A lot of guys running 2 classes, and I only had 1 sled.
Yeah.
So I did that, and then the following year, I raced a little 433 Thunderjet for a guy out in Buffalo, New York. I ran that 6 weeks, and I hated the sled. I ran it 6 weeks and won 4, but I still hated the sled. So I quit. And I got on a little factory Yamaha with the boys out of Sherbrooke, Canada.
Yeah.
And that thing was fast. I'd win the 340 every week. Put in the 440, I'd win that and take second. I'd put in the 650 class, take second and third.
Yeah.
Thing was fast.
Yeah.
Real quick. And that was in 75. In February, I won the Governor's Cup down there, and that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And that was February. And in March, it was the end of racing season, and again, I didn't bother to go to the World Series. And in April, I came down with cancer.
Oh.
And I lived racing 24/7 all year round. That's all I could think about, racing and racing, going faster. What I can do, Looking forward to the new models coming out. But when the cancer happened, it was just like a light switch click. Racing going. And chemo they give you would just tear you up so bad. I just had it. I'd had it. And here I am. And they sent me a lot of papers to fill out every few months, wondering why I'm still alive. I did ask the doctor about how many people had this particular type of cancer in Vermont. He said 6. I said, all right. I said, how are they? He said, they're all deceased. So at the same time in the beginning. Like,
Jeez.
I mean, I was getting blown out of me. It's like, my God, I've been such a strong, powerful man, in my mind and thought and building, positive in what I'm doing, and all that being taken away. It was horrible.
Yeah.
The following year, I earned another gold bib, and following year, it'd be 76. I told my dad, I said, let's go to Weedsport, New York. I want to see the boys, and all the boys want to see me. So we went. And I see a lot of boys. I don't know who this guy was this day, but he had a brand new 340 Twister. He said, Roger, you racing this? No, I didn't bring nothing. I'm not running. Run my sled. I said, no, you got a driver. You got a driver right there. You let him run. I want you to run. I looked at the driver. I said, are you okay with that? He said, yeah. I said, okay. If I run your sled, you'll be ahead because I'll know what's wrong and I'll tell him what's going to be fixed. Which I did. And I got a third in the final, 340 miles, which is cool.
Yeah.
That's all the sled would give me. But to cut me so bad on the head, remove muscles and such, that I was never 100%. If it can't be 100%, then I can't be 120.
Yeah.
So that was my last race ever. Teddy Wynot was at that track. He was a race director and flagman. Teddy come see me, asked how I was doing, and we had a conversation, this and that. And he said, are you done driving? I said, yes, I'm all done driving. He said, would you come and be a tech man for us? I laughed at that. I went, yeah, right. I said, you got a list that long of guys that want to be tech men. He said, yes, I do. He said, when it comes to you, there's no list.
Yeah.
I said, cool. I thought about it for a minute, and I said, I put my hand on his shoulder. I said, Ted, thanks for the opportunity. I said, but I can't take it because I don't know if I can do a whole job for you. I don't even know if I'm going to be alive next month.
Yeah.
So I never took it. And that was the final of me and the USSA racing, everything. That was it, done.
Yeah.
And it never came back into me, the racing and all that stuff. And I've got a wealth of knowledge. My knowledge of racing and building is just incredible. And I taught myself, but I just let it all go. But racing is great. I feel honored about getting into the Hall of Fame. It wasn't a give me, it was earned.
Sure.
And all them guys that are in there, they earned it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the big guns, well, they're no bigger than me. And we all have respect for each other. And that's what's good. You know? We can talk great stories about each other, and all with respect.
Yeah, that's cool.
Other than that, I don't know much more to say. I'm proud of what I did. And I would do it again.
Nice.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, one of the greats right there.
Oh, yeah.
Can you send me a copy of this? This is the first time I've ever seen this.
Yeah, absolutely. Be happy
Can
to.
you send me a copy? Yeah, I've never seen this. This is
That
awesome.
must seem strange for Pauline to see him standing there and talking like that and everything. It's yeah.
What a character.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Great storyteller.
Yeah.
Well, that's what he did. Anytime he ever called me up on the phone, he always had a story, and we were good for half, 3/4, sometimes an hour there on the phone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you would send that to me, Mike.
Definitely,
I've never seen it. Yeah, I want to save it.
That's good. That's good, Rick. Yeah.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if someone wants to see that whole thing, just look for Eastern Snowmobile Racing Hall of Fame 2020 induction ceremony, and it'll come up on YouTube. But I'll send you the link, Rick.
Yeah, send me the link.
Yeah.
It's just I've never heard it, and that's an in-depth story of how it all played out.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And then
Very nice.
Christina's saying, thank you for sharing this video. I do think the cancer shut him down. Appreciate all of you fellas for doing this tonight. Well, we're very happy to do it. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I hope we did him proud.
Yes, I sure hope so. That was our intention anyway.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, we'll know about it when we see him.
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
exactly. We'll catch up with him someday.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Oh, and then Tardsat says, thank you so much for putting this on. We really appreciate it. We didn't know how much Roger meant to snowmobiling. What a character and what a big part of snowmobiling history. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's an honor for us to do this for sure.
Yeah.
Been an honor.
And didn't we get him inducted in just the right time? Because, you never know what's going to happen down the road.
No,
That's
you
true.
don't.
Yeah.
No, you don't.
Yeah. And I'm glad we were able to catch those stories too.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. And thank you, Mike, for doing that, because Mike is the guy. I mean, he's got Calvin Reynolds. He's got all these guys interviews, and Judy Rinaldi.
Yeah,
That's going to be very important down the road.
definitely. Yeah, capturing all these interviews and the inductions too. What you're
Yeah.
doing and what you're doing, Midge, too, with the induction, the Hall of Fame. Inducting all of these people and just keeping that alive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they've kind of shelved me. Melissa's taken over now, so my job, I guess, is about done as far as that
Sure.
goes. But
You set it in motion.
still involved. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. And we can still do with this. We can honor a lot of these racers and everything.
We should
with
get
these
Melissa
podcasts.
on some night. I don't know if she would do that or not, but
That's a good idea.
it'd be a
Good idea.
Yeah, have her on. And
Yeah, just a matter of scheduling it.
yeah, right.
And then Pauline is making some comments also. And if you're just joining us, Pauline, we have her on here. This is Roger's sister, but unfortunately, we could not get audio for her tonight, no matter how hard we tried. But she is making comments in the background. I'll read a couple of them. It says, it's great to see his interview. It put a lot of pieces together for her. Very cool. And then she says, Roger, you'll always be a winner in my book. Mom, Dad, and I were your biggest fans. Our parents bought a Winnebago to follow you week after week to all of the races. You made me a proud sister, and you taught me what adrenaline feels like. I can imagine.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It was a family affair.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Is there anything else, anything we haven't covered or anything we haven't said or?
No, I think we
got it.
He was a good friend. He was a good friend.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was a good friend.
Yes.
So,
Big heart. He had a big
sure.
heart.
Yeah.
He did.
And even though I only met him the one day, I felt like he was a friend,
Yeah.
just from that one day.
Yeah.
Well, that video you just did is so precious to keep. That's Roger. That's Roger. He explained it all.
Yeah.
And like
That's
Pauline
right.
said, put some pieces back together. Well, it did the same for me too.
Yeah.
Putting things in order and what happened when.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Pauline says that,
Roger kind of wanted to get Rod, his boss there. What's his last name?
Rod Hughes.
Rod Hughes. Yeah, Rod Hughes.
Rod Hughes, yeah.
Yeah. He said something about getting Rod Hughes in the Hall of Fame as a promoter. At some point.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was really interested in doing that.
Yeah, he's one of the bigger promoters. He was a distributor.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, for the East. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and Pauline also added, even when it came to auto racing, 4 generations were represented at the track.
Wow. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, because he was into auto racing as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe you were in the lucky number 7.
Wow.
I believe so.
Wow.
Yeah. On all his stock cars.
Yeah. Did he race at Barry, Pauline?
Oh, she said son Cal raced also, and she's probably going to answer us here. Did he race in Barry? Thunder Road, yes.
Thunder Road. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Sure.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, cool deal. So, yeah, unless there are any other comments or thoughts, either from all of us here or the viewers, we're going to wind it down. But I wanted to thank everyone for coming on here tonight and all the viewers. And, we've got one more comment here from Pauline. Yes, Thunder Road, number 7. When he was racing, it was number 7. Auto racing, I should say.
Well, thank you very much for doing this, Mike.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. Yeah,
thank you to do it.
You're the man.
Yeah.
We try. That's what this is for, is to honor people and keep this all alive.
Right.
Yeah. Well, cool. Well, yes. Well, have a wonderful evening, everyone. Thank you, all of you. And,
night.
Have a good night, Pauline.
Night,
Good night, Pauline. We love you.
Take care, Eric, Mike.
All right.
All right.
We'll
Take
see you
care,
soon.
you guys. All right.
We'll talk to you.
All right.